Hi, I'm Mary Abbajay. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about managing up. We're going to talk about how you can manage up to different kinds of bosses. But first, we're going to talk about what managing up is and what managing up isn't. Managing up means making a concerted effort to create a productive and positive working relationship with the powers that be. You know, your bosses, your leaders, your supervisors, anybody above you in the food chain. And we work on making a productive and positive relationship so that you can find success, they can find success, and the organization can find success. Managing up is not, contrary to popular belief out there, managing up is not sucking up. It's not about being a sycophant. It's not about being a patsy. It's not about kissing someone's ass. That is manipulation. When we are managing up, we are managing a relationship where there's different power dynamics. There might be different personalities, different perspectives, and different priorities. And we're doing this from where we sit in the relationship. So again, we can find success, our bosses can find success, and our organizations can find success. So now that we all are on the same page about what managing up is and isn't, let me give you a few reasons why you, and quite frankly, all of us, need to do it. Number one, your boss matters. Your boss has a lot of influence over your career trajectory. Your boss has a lot of influence over the types of projects you work on, the types of teams you're a part of, and quite frankly, your visibility in your organization and in your industry. Which means that when we have these productive and positive, effective working relationships with those above us in the food chain, then you know what? Career opportunities will find our way. And when we don't have good relationships, when we have a fraught relationship with our managers, supervisors, leaders, and bosses, then opportunities may pass us by. Which brings us to reason number two, why you need to manage up. And that is you. You matter. Your career matters. Nobody can, nobody will, nobody should care about your career more than you do. And if part of your career success, however you define it, hinges on some part, large or small, on having that productive, that positive working relationship with your boss, then guess what? It's your responsibility to make that happen. Because number three is that you can't control them. We cannot control other people. We can make requests of other people, but your boss is who your boss is. Your boss ain't going to change because they prefer one way and you prefer another. So your power comes from your ability to adapt and figure out how to work with the boss you actually have and not the boss you wish you had. So let's talk about how to deal with difficult boss types, right? Because we're all going to find someone that kind of makes us go grrr in the workplace. And the first thing I want you to know is that you should never let a difficult boss derail your career. Now, I'm talking about difficult bosses. I'm not talking about toxic bosses. We'll talk about those jokers later. But when I'm talking about difficult bosses, I'm talking about bosses like the micromanagers, right? Or the ghosters, or the impulsives that are constantly changing their mind, or the seagull bosses that swoop and poop, or they swoop and scoop. Or we're talking about the Michael Scott type of bosses, or the passive aggressives, or the back channelers, or the incompetents, or the people that just for whatever reason do not give you what you need. We're going to break some of these down for you in the next couple of videos. So stay tuned and hopefully we will be able to talk about your favorite difficult boss. So you have a micromanager. Let me give you a couple of tips that will help you find success with that person and still keep your sanity. Number one, you need to over-communicate. You need to over-communicate proactively. That means giving them the information before they ask for it, offering those status reports before they ask for it, giving them updates, you got it, before they ask for it. The thing about micromanagers is that they have a high need for certainty. They have a high need for inclusion. They have a high need for information. So you want to be proactive about giving them that information. Let me be super clear. You're going to hate every second of it. It's going to drive you crazy. You're going to go grrr. But if you don't give them that information before they ask for it, guess what? They're over your shoulder asking for it. Number two, Anticipate their involvement. And what I mean by this is really understand what it is they care about. Most micromanagers also are nitpickers. So you've got to get clear at the beginning of projects what specifics or what they care about or what little nitpicky things they're going to focus on. Maybe it's a certain kind of font. Maybe it's a certain color scheme. Maybe it's the Oxford comma. Really understand what it is they want before you start the project so that you can give them what they want. And thirdly, really have conversations with your micromanager at the outset of projects so that you understand when and how they need to be looped in. So this comes to making sure that when you are delegated something, you're having that delegation conversation. So you really pull out of them their expectations, their needs, and their wants around check-ins and around information and around updates. These three things alone will really help you curb that micromanaging instinct that they have. Because once they trust you, once they have a certainty that you're going to accomplish things the way they want them to, guess what? Autonomy is yours. So we've talked about the micromanager, but did you know on the other end of the spectrum is the macromanager, the hands-off boss, the absentee boss, or as I like to call them, the ghost boss. And the ghost boss is the boss who's, quite frankly, never around. This is the boss that may give you an assignment and then poof, they disappear. They're never around when you need them. You can't get the information you require. And quite frankly, you're left off in the ether all by yourself. And this can be very disconcerting for people, especially for people who really need to have more communication, more collaboration, quite frankly, more contact with their bosses. But here's the thing. A ghost boss is a great boss if you know how to deal with them. So first of all, you need to understand the ghost boss. Ghost bosses ghost for lots of different reasons. It's not because they hate you. Well, it might be because they hate you, but there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of other reasons why they may be ghosting you. Some people ghost because, quite frankly, they trust you. They hired you, they trust you're going to do the job, and they don't think that you need them. Other people ghost because they're really, really reclusive, or as I call, like serious, raging introverts. And they're just happy in their own little world. And again, they don't know that you need them. Some people ghost you because, quite frankly, they're too busy. They have so much on their plate, they don't have the bandwidth to connect with you. And then, of course, there are some ghosters who are ghosting you. They're ghosting everybody because they're retired in place. Whatever the reason is, whatever the reason for your ghost boss's ghosting, please know this. You can't ghost them. That's right. It's up to you to make sure that you remain in contact with your ghost boss. Let me give you 3 tips and techniques that you can use to make a positive and productive relationship with your ghost boss. Number 1, be proactive. This means if you are waiting for your ghost boss to reach out to you, guess what, people? You're going to be waiting a long time. So take control, be proactive, reach out to them. Get yourself on their calendar. Schedule critical meetings to discuss critical projects. And when you do that, make sure that you are clear about your needs and wants from them. So for example, you might say, hey Ghosty, I need 10 minutes of your time to discuss the Penske project. Then when you get those 10 minutes, you're in and out in 9 minutes. Part of what you're doing is training your ghost boss that when you say you need something, you're going to take as little time of theirs as possible. That's number 1, be proactive. Number 2, you got to do a little FITFO. FITFO is an old term, an old anagram that means figure it the fuck out. That's right, you heard me. That means that you have to be as self-sufficient as possible when you have a ghost boss. You have to know where and how to get the information and the support that you need. This may mean reaching out to colleagues who are across from you, colleagues who are above you, colleagues all around you. Do what you can to be self-sufficient and get what you need. This also means that you're going to need to make sure you have other mentors in your organization to help guide your career. Your ghost boss may love you, But if they're ghosting because they don't have time for you, then you don't want your career to stall because they don't have time to support and mentor you. Go out and get a mentor. My third tip is a classic. It's CYA, which, as we all know, means you got to cover your ass. And I recommend doing this in writing as best you can. So this might mean that you will send an email to your boss. Maybe you have a project due. So you send an email that says, hey, Ghost Boss, I have this Penske project is due on Wednesday. I have it attached. Please let me know by Tuesday evening if you have any questions, concerns, additions, or comments. Otherwise, I will assume it's okay and I will submit it. That's the thing. You've got to keep them in the loop and cover your ass. So those are my 3 tips for dealing with the ghost boss. And quite frankly, some of you may love a ghost boss. But for those of you who don't, you got to go grab that ghost boss and bring him into you to get what you need. Good luck. Now, let's talk about the workaholic. The workaholic is that boss who's always working. He or they are there in the morning well before you get there. They're there well after you leave in the evening. They are probably texting you, emailing you, calling you after hours on the weekends, all day, every day. And working for the workaholic is exhausting, right? You feel like you're on that treadmill, that hamster wheel, and there's no getting off of it. It can be extremely stressful. So for any of you who are dealing with a workaholic or are currently working for a workaholic, then let me give you some tips of how you can manage that relationship. Number 1, be clear about your boundaries. Your boundaries are really about when you are and when you are not available to work. You want to be clear about your availability on weekends and on evenings, etc. Now, these are your boundaries, so it's up to you to maintain and keep them. Number 2, be clear about their after-hour requests. Just because your workaholic sends you an email or texts you on the weekend or at 8 o'clock at night doesn't necessarily mean they want you to do anything about it. A lot of workaholics are just cleaning off their desk and shooting off their emails to put it into the queue for you the next day. So you want to have a conversation with your boss about what these after-hour requests actually mean. What are their expectations? Number 3, you got to bring your A game every single day. Workaholics care about work. They care about output. They care about maximal output. So make sure you are bringing your A game every day, which means nose to the grindstone, no crying in baseball. Make sure that you are bringing your A game, which also means that you've got to keep them in the loop. You want to remind your workaholic boss about your high levels of productivity. So don't assume they know how fabulous you are. You've got to keep reminding them about your achievements and your productivity. And my final tip, which could be sometimes a little controversial, but I'm just going to be honest with you. Every now and then, you do want to go the extra mile. Even though us workaholics will say to you, oh no, Kristen, you don't need to answer my emails on the weekend. Oh no, I don't need support on that proposal, at 7 o'clock at night. The times that you do decide to go the extra mile, maybe stay late once in a while, maybe answer that occasional email on the weekends, that workaholic boss will love you just a little bit more than the person that didn't. We've talked about a lot of difficult bosses. But let's talk about the one that I personally find the most difficult to deal with. And that would be the impulsive. This is the boss that's constantly changing his, her, or their mind. This is the boss that's constantly chasing shiny objects. This is the boss that goes to some conference, comes back on Monday with 10 new ideas. And by Monday afternoon, all those new ideas are replaced by 10 new ideas. Working for the impulsive can be very frustrating because they're constantly moving the goalpost and you feel like you're on quicksand and you can't really get anything done. So let's talk about how you can manage your sanity when you're working for someone who's a little cray-cray in their impulsivity. Number 1, embrace what you can. In other words, the next time they bring you some cray-cray idea, see if you can't find something in that idea you like. Right, Valentino? Some little germ or kernel or nugget that you can make happen for them. And then what you're going to have to do is you're really going to have to make them You're really going to have to make them, how do I say it, come down to reality. And I do this by doing a couple of things. One is, he's impulsive. Okay, here's how you're going to do it. You're going to embrace what you can. You're also going to get them to prioritize. I recommend using this technique called the yes and, not the yes but. I know it's an improv technique, but it works great with the impulsives. It looks like this. Hey, impulsive boss, that's a great idea. And where does this fit in our line of priorities? Oh, what interesting idea. And what needs to go on the back burner to make that happen? Oh, what a cool idea. And what resources do you want to pull from other projects to make this happen? Because what you're doing with the yes and is you're forcing them to prioritize. You're forcing them to think through what it would mean to accomplish this idea, this project, this new thing of theirs. So providing project lists, providing priorities, providing plans can really help them kind of focus on what is important and what's not important. The key for doing this when you're dealing with an impulsive is to stay positive. You don't want to be that negative Nelly, that wah, 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 we can't do this, this will never happen, blah, blah, blah. Because if you rain on their parade, they are going to dig their heels in even more. So stay positive, use the yes and. And my final tip is this. Do nothing. That's right. You heard me. Just don't do anything. You've got to know your boss well to pull this one off. But if you're pretty sure that this idea isn't going to stick, then why are you jumping in head first? Why don't you wait a minute, wait a day, wait an hour, wait till they mention it the second time? Because this will help keep you sane. So those are my ideas for the impulsive boss. They can be really great bosses, by the way, especially if they know they're impulsive and they're looking to you to put guardrails. The thing about impulsive bosses is sometimes, like every good pig in the forest, they're going to find a truffle, and you can be on that road with them and do something really cool. So keep it sane, keep it real, keep it positive. And finally, let's close out today's video by talking about the Seagull Boss. So the Seagull Boss is a swooper. And there's two kinds of swoopers. There's the Seagull Boss that swoops and poops all over your shit and then swoops back out. Then you have the scooper. And this Seagull Boss swoops in, they scoop up the project. Oh, that looks like a good project, and they take it away from you. So whether you are dealing with a swooper and pooper or a swooper and scooper, here are some strategies that you can do to navigate that Seagull Boss. The best way to navigate a Seagull Boss is to understand their swooping patterns. So you're going to become kind of a bird watcher here, an ornithologist, if you will. So really pay attention to when they swoop, what causes the swooping, and when they swoop, are they more likely to poop or to scoop? If you have a swooper and a pooper, one strategy is just to be like, if there aren't any repercussions other than this kind of pooping action and this, momentary, criticism, then just let it go. If they swoop and poop and you can get some valuable information from it, ask them a few questions, ask them to elaborate, or go back after the pooping incident to get some more feedback on the project. That's a pooper. The one that scoops is really a little more difficult to deal with. You have to really understand what kind of projects they're likely to scoop. Usually they start scooping up a project when they realize the project has some good legs, or the project has high visibility, or maybe they're scooping it because they're not happy with what you're doing. So if you have a sense that the project you're working on is scoopable by your boss, then I recommend that you keep them in the loop about the project. Invite their input so they don't feel the need to take it away from you. Invite their input so if it goes off track before they scoop it, it will give you a chance to make any remedies or corrections that you need to do. So first thing you need to do for a swooper, a pooper, a scooper is to really figure out their swooping patterns and then go from there. Thank you so much for watching this video. I truly hope that you found it helpful and informative. If you're looking for more information on how to manage up, you can always check out my book, Managing Up, which is available anywhere fine books are sold. If there are other bosses that you'd like us to discuss, and we know there are, please put it in the comments below. We read all our comments because we really value the input and the engagement from our listeners. So in closing, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. And we hope to see you back here soon.